with my buddy Dash for this episode of Double Take. Dave, I just said joined by Dash, but we're joined by Dash
Talking
and
in
Dave.
the third person. That's
Third person.
weird.
The way you feel.
Happy Tuesday evening, everybody. And geez, I just get cooked in the chat before I even start speaking. But anyways, everybody, happy Tuesday afternoon. We're having a really fun, super special show because we've brought a friend that it was actually the first outside of Juventus content creator that we actually collaborated with back in the day.
The OG outsider.
The OG, the GOAT of the Weekend Recap, even though he's officially retired the Weekend Recap. Big tears in my eyes. Adrian Sousa from Rabona TV. Adrian, how are you, our good friend?
I'm doing well. I didn't know that I carried that honor of being the first outside of Juve to come onto this. So thank you.
You're well revered around these parts.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the banner on the wall here behind me. Number one Turin Giants outsider.
Yeah. And I do have to say, you have put us on to a bit of a streak here, because it first started with Porto, and I reached out to you, and I said Sporting, it was the Sporting guys.
Benfica. Or the Sporting guys? Yeah, it was the Sporting guys that we first reached
we reached out to you for Benfica, right? So that was cool. And I was like, hey, what's the chances, knowing that you probably have some connections out there, like that you would know another team within your same league, right? So you put us on to the Sporting guys. We had a blast there, and we've just kind of rolled with it ever since. And every time we've hit a new team, we've got them in, and even some Marseille guys to talk to as well. So you got the bug into us. So that's also why you're one of the OGs.
Hey, I'm happy to contribute in that way. The broadening of your horizons, basically. For the Sporting guys, was it Sporting 160 that you got on?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I get asked by everyone basically now. Do you know anyone for? I want to talk about Ugarte or someone from Sporting, or I want to talk about Porto.
Because Ugarte's a big name now.
He is. Yeah, it's looking like he's a big PSG name now. But there was a hot minute where I had all the Chelsea supporters coming after me again. Hey, do you know anything about this guy? You know anything about this guy? Which, I mean, I know a few things, but I've sort of become like, even though I'm not Portuguese league guy, I've sort of become that, which is
you fly the banner.
Cool, I guess. But I don't know, like, it would be very strange for me to show up for like a Porto preview or something, you know what I mean? It would be like you guys showing up for like a Inter versus Manchester City preview.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, yeah, cool. Whatever. Those guys, they suck.
We'd just be there for comedic relief, I think, in all honesty, because it's just we've kind of had that comedic relief role with some of our collaborations.
Yeah. But no, it's been fun. It's been nice keeping in contact with you guys. Is this the third time I'm on here? Or
yes, we did a back-to-back, and then yes, now this is the third.
Okay, the three-peat.
So you also hold the honor for coming back the most amount of times.
Hey,
yeah, that is true.
I'm just racking them up.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did a background check of all of our viewers to make sure if L was in the crowd, but we have not found L nor heard from L since the previous time.
Have you heard from L?
Have you heard from L?
So I can't remember exactly what it was. It's been a little bit of a blur, but I think that L did end up commenting on my YouTube channel again. However, I think he changed his name. He just couldn't, now that we put him on blast like that, he couldn't, go out in public with the L on him. So,
the big L.
Yeah, the big L. So I think that he changed his name and said, "This is L," but like I didn't mean anything by it. I was just emotional, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Oh,
you got him in the feels.
It's like, all right,
I guess. Sorry, L. Now I feel bad.
It's like,
but you see,
right.
This is the thing. They say us Canadians are so polite, but we will mess on your life so hard if you screw with us.
Hey, it's one of those things I've told people. I'm like, hey man, don't mess with Dave, guys, because you think I'm the brutal one. No, it's Dave.
Yeah, that's it. We can only take things so far, and then the talons come out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we got a bit of that farmer grit, I suppose, still in us.
Yeah,
Speaking of which, how are the fires out in Montreal area? You smoked out?
Yeah, it's like orange skies. It's weird. My wife just came home saying like we need to run the air purifier. It's like hazy and weird out there.
Yeah.
The air quality is apparently really bad. Me as a office dwelling little monster that rarely goes outside, I haven't noticed it yet, but looking at the light coming in from outside, it looks like the light that I have behind me as well.
Yeah.
So it's sort of
creepy looking.
it's very creepy. But yeah, it's I don't know. I guess I'll go outside and experience it later.
Yeah, it smells like campfire. It's great.
Yeah.
Great for the lungs. But you said wife, so this is new to your life as well since the last time, is it not?
I mean, I call
Like
her.
Rocky
We aren't married yet.
Oh, okay, you still just call it the wife. Okay, you haven't gotten married yet.
No, we haven't gotten married yet. There's a plan that's happening. It is happening, but we've been together 9 going on 10 years now, so it's
pretty much
we're married. Yeah.
So this is what you do with it. It infuriates them. You call them the wife the whole time that you're just kind of dating and going out, whatever. As soon as you marry her, you call her the girlfriend.
That's petty. Oh, that's petty.
That's how it's done. Okay.
Guys, if you see Adrian disappear, blame Dave. Just blame Dave.
Yeah. I was either smoked out and exhausted and passed out from the poor air quality, or it's Dave's fault.
Or it's my fault. Just everyone blame Dave. It's cool. It's cool. As well, guys, in the chat, thank you everyone for rolling in here. But if you have any questions for any of us, especially for Adrian here, he really is an expert on the footballing world, just in general. He doesn't focus in like we do. We're here to get a wider perspective, especially since it's silly season. There might be transfers coming in and out. And just to get an outsider's point of view of our club, because I mean, we're pretty biased, let's be honest, and we've been in this defensive position all season. So it's good maybe to pop our heads out of the trenches to see what's going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I see people. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
I see people saying I would like to exchange Sandro for Grimaldo. You're gonna have to talk to Leverkusen now. Grimaldo signed with Leverkusen, so that everyone sort of not everyone, but there was a few clubs, Juve included, that were sort of circling around. I know a few supporters that were looking to get Grimaldo, hopefully, but he's gone. That ship has sailed. He's off to join Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen.
So can I ask you that? Yeah, because that's a shocker. So can I ask you, because like I know City, PSG, and Bayern Munich were on his radar. So why Leverkusen? Did something happen as far as like form or injuries or anything like that?
No, if anything, I would say that this past season was one of Grimaldo's best at Benfica. Okay. I think it was his most reliable defensively and his most, or at least one of his most fruitful going forward. There was a while there where he was converting free kicks for fun. His final ball was really good. He was joining the attack and combining well with Romario, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for him to leave to go to Leverkusen sort of feels like, all respect to them, a bit of a lateral step rather than a step up in his career. Especially, some could even argue that it's a step back if you want to go that far. I don't really want to, because, that's a Europa League team, blah, 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 blah. But I think that maybe it's the allure of working under Xabi Alonso and sort of the project that they have going on at Leverkusen, which is improving now with Xabi Alonso in charge. And from all the things that I've read about Alonso as a manager, there's those famous quotes about Mourinho speaking about him. I'm sure a lot of you saw how he thought, this was way back before he was a manager, how he was asked what current player would make a great manager. Mourinho said, Xabi Alonso. He was like me. He grew up with his father being a manager. He grew up around the game. While he's on the pitch, he's basically like a manager already. So I think that he'll be a great manager. And it turns out that he is at Leverkusen so far. So maybe that was enough for Grimaldo, Spanish hero, to go work under. Maybe that was enough. I don't know. It was puzzling to me. I thought that if he did leave, it would be to a Juve or a City as sort of a backup there, or Bayern or what have you, but Leverkusen it is.
That's interesting because, like, for example, especially with Kahn and Bayern sporting director, I'm gonna absolutely butcher his last name, but with them both dropping, essentially being sacked, Alphonso Davies's renewal is kind of in the balance per se. So it was one of those things where I was a little bit perplexed, more so. So that's interesting. I guess that's, one of the weird transfers. And question coming in from Yusuf, speaking of weird transfers, here's a question for you. I think all the Saudi crazy transfers will overinflate the European market. Will it do damage more than the Premier League long term? what's your thoughts on that? As far as, because I believe Conte is about to make 100 million a season at Al Ittihad, and then
Benzema just signed.
And Benzema just signed as well. So what's your thoughts on these Saudi offers?
I think it's really interesting. I've been looking into it a lot lately, just because I sort of saw what happened, and there was that big announcement as far as the Saudi Golf League sort of becoming part of the PGA Tour, or essentially, or combining.
Yeah, that just came out as well. Yeah, the merger.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of us are thinking, like, is this sort of the blueprint for them to take over football? They signed some of the best golfers. They set up their own league. They started hosting tournaments, etc. Now are they going to start doing that in football? They already have players. They have ambassadors like Messi. They're signing Benzema, Kante. You know, the caliber of players is higher than what, let's say, China was doing in the past, if you know what I mean. Which they also signed great players as well. You know, Hulk went there for a while, Oscar in his prime, etc. But with the Saudi sort of takeover of football, it does feel a little bit different. And it does feel like they're sort of working towards this huge plan of, you know, the 2030 World Cup and everything to make Saudi Arabia part of football. You know, sport washing allegations aside and everything, how will it sort of affect the transfers? That I can't say. I still think that if you're a player, you're going to see the offers from Saudi Arabia that are going to be very difficult to compete with. But I think that you would almost sort of see those offers separately from how you would view an offer from a Real Madrid or a Bayern or any other sort of big club. It does sort of beg the question of, will these, let's call them middle tier clubs, will they suffer the most? Probably, because they don't have that allure that a Bayern or a Juve, let's say, or whatever top club, insert blank here, has. So then players may, if they're, let's say they're given a choice between Leverkusen or going to Saudi Arabia and making that crazy money, they might take Saudi Arabian money instead. So I think that those sort of middle of the road type of clubs will suffer a lot. But I think that the big traditional clubs that are still dominant, I think that a lot of players will still want to fulfill those dreams of playing for them rather than running off to Saudi Arabia right away.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because like I'm kind of thinking about it where, you know, when you're looking at the average age of like some of these outrageous contracts from Saudi Arabia, again, it's players, you know, into their mid to late 30s, a little bit on the twilight of their careers. You know, I thought about it and I'm like, this kind of might actually start, you know, it's a positive and it's a negative, but it kind of affects, like you said, the middle of the table slash, I would say, your relegation sides as well, because usually they go for those players that are in the twilight of their careers. So, you know, they can help at least stay surviving in that top level and not get relegated. But it kind of opens up this little bit of a paradox now, because it's like, for example, these clubs need to get creative with their youth systems more than, you know, relying on a Quagliarella or, you know, Ribéry with Salernitana, just trying to keep it a little bit Serie A. But because the thing is like, for example, you bring in those players, yeah, you'll get them on 1 or 2 million year deals for them to play. But the thing is now if I'm Franck Ribéry, if I'm getting over 50 million a season, you know, in Saudi Arabia, why would I go to Salerno and make 2 million unless I want to go for the kindness of my heart? So it's one of those things where you're really kind of causing, it's bad and it's good at the same time, because again, you're having players and marketability leave Europe and go to Saudi Arabia. But at the same time, it's going to make essentially your lower tier clubs or your relegation to lower mid table kind of get a little bit more creative with how they scout and how they bring in players, because there's some of those lower ranked teams that are desperate on those old twilight players to help keep them up. So now it kind of changes the system. And someone did mention MLS is going to hurt. I think that's actually good for the MLS, because now the MLS needs to actually figure out and develop a style, because a system, because a lot of coaches and former United States national team players are really, really slamming the United States grassroots. And I'm also one of those folks that's on that bandwagon that's is slamming it. Because the thing is the United States plays a long ball. And if you are a sprinter, you are going to be the best striker on the team, because essentially how they teach kids in the United States is you're a center back, boot the ball 30 yards downfield, and then hope your fastest kid gets it and taps it in. So, there's no build-up play. I mean, it's evident. I've got some dash cam footage that we call it, but some GoPro footage of me going to pick up games, and, you rarely really see anything built out from the back. It's usually booted on the wings and sent straight down the field instead of really going through the middle. So, I think Saudi Arabia has its minuses, but also I think it's going to kind of cause the MLS to shift market strategy as well as the mid to lower table teams.
And because I always throw in some F1, you see them penetrating into the F1 world as well, with not only in management, but also in getting more and more tracks, even, tracks that shouldn't necessarily be in the calendar. So, I mean, they're coming hard at everything, really. All the more international sports, at least for now.
Yeah, exactly. And I really like what you said about teams having to sort of rely on their academies a little bit more. And MLS in particular, I think that we've started to see a little bit of a shift, maybe not entirely, but I think that we've started to see a little bit of a shift of them wanting to move away from those 36-year-old Pirlo and Frank Lampard and those Steven Gerrard type of signings. Yeah. And you're seeing a little bit more of, like a Tati Castellanos or Miguel Almiron and some of these sort of South American, Thiago Almada, is it, that plays for Atlanta United?
Yes.
Very good player.
Yeah, Almeida, yep.
You see a lot more of those players, that's sort of the route that MLS is taking now, where they're signing these players from maybe countries that are underserved or players that wouldn't necessarily make it at the top clubs within their own right, but they're very good footballers that can provide a lot of value in MLS. So it's nice. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Come on. They can't. They won one game, I think, this year. Oh, man, it's horrible. So bad. But
is that who you support? Is TFC?
I'm from Toronto. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I support all the Toronto teams, unfortunately. So, look at who I'm supporting right now. Everything from Toronto, Juventus, and Ferrari. Everything sucks. But that's fine. I'll just cry at the corner. We'll move on.
So I think, though, and I think a bunch of folks want to hear this, whether, they're listening to us live or on the replay, but some breaking news has come in. And I know you've covered it as well on your channel, Adrian. So the Super League. So weirdly weird series of events today. This morning while I was working with our podcast group with episode 218, that's on Spotify. Should be going on to YouTube soon. It just takes forever to upload. Thanks, YouTube. But really kind of going into it. So there was an announcement that Juventus is pulling out of the Super League, and then Juve is not pulling out of the Super League, and then they're pulling out of the Super League, and then UEFA is extorting them to pull out of the Super League, and UEFA is not extorting them to pull out of the Super League, and now Barcelona and Real Madrid are taking UEFA to court for extortion. It's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of allegednesses. I can't believe I just said that, but alleged shenanigans that's going on. So kind of to give you a synopsis is early this morning, Juve were getting ready to send a letter to Barcelona and Real Madrid to say that we are withdrawing from the Super League. And then a couple minutes later, it was revealed that UEFA were levying a 5-year suspension from European Cup competitions if Juventus does not pull out of the Super League. Juve officially released a statement saying, hey, we're not leaving the Super League. There's no extortion. It's, hey, Juventus, blink 3 times if you can talk safely. But that happens, and then Dave has the press release right here. And then a couple hours later, someone inside released that UEFA was planning to ban Juve for 3 seasons of cup competitions. And now Real Madrid and Barcelona and A22, the Super League and A22 are saying, hey, we have evidence and basis of extortion here. We're taking this to the Madrid court, and we're going to see, we're going to sue or whatever process is UEFA for extortion. So it's a mess.
And I heard 5 years on the Europe ban. So, I mean, depending on sources, I suppose, but it's obviously something hefty. But yeah, Adrian, what's your take on any of this? This is new. I know that we're just dumping this on you right now.
Yeah, this is. I tried reading this press release earlier, And I was like, what are they even saying here?
Yeah,
Because it's so like lawyer speak, like
is.
with reference to rumors that appear today, they have communicated to the remaining clubs that blah, 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 that they want to start a dialogue. It's like, what? What are we saying?
It's worse because it's Italian lawyer speak, which doesn't make sense in the first place. And then it's translated to English.
You should have seen us when we were reading the press release for the -15, then the -10, then the Konya appeals. Oh,
nothing made sense.
It was terrible.
But based off of what Dash is saying, they essentially are just what are they saying? They're just saying that we have notified Real Madrid and Barcelona that we are looking to step out from the Super League or start a dialogue to step out of the Super League because we've been, not what they said, but blackmailed by UEFA into doing so. Is that basically it?
Pretty much to an extent.
Juventus hasn't said we're being blackmailed, but then A22 has come out and has said one of our members, Juventus, has attacked by UEFA, bunch of legal speak referencing the case that's going on at the European courts about anti-competitiveness, because the European court said, yes, you can't stop another entity from forming. Yes, within your own entity, you can ban them from playing, you can control that membership, but you can't stop them from breaking off and doing something else. So there's this ongoing case currently. And this looks like, in a lot of ways, a political move. But on the other hand, if you don't think too politically and you look at more on the surface, is it just that we're bleeding so many funds and we can't fight on this war right now? So it's like a tactical retreat. We'll step back out of this nonsense and just focus on the team. Again, a lot that I just threw down here, but
I mean, I honestly have no idea. The thing that comes to mind, first of all, for me is like, I feel bad for you guys and all the like noise that you've had to go through this season with the plusvalenza, or if I'm even saying that correctly, the deductions, this now, the Super League stuff. It must just be tiring. And then on top of that, you have to watch Allegri. And you
throw it in there.
Well, you know, the thing is it's starting to become a soap opera with Allegri and one of our main C-suite guys, Calvo, because apparently those two don't like each other. So this is kind of funny. So this is like, again, all alleged, not, you know, I take it word of mouth here, but apparently Allegri stole Calvo's girlfriend at some point, or his wife or something.
Or did you? I did not read that.
It's on Twitter. I saw it on Twitter. Again, guys, take it for a grain of salt here. I don't know how true this is, but like it's like a big petty battle between the two. I don't know if it was Allegri, if it was Agnelli or something like that, but there was something with Calvo and Allegri, because there is a very nasty beef between the two. It's kind of like Sheffrin and Agnelli, where, you know, Agnelli kind of stole his lunch money as a kid, so Sheffrin's been holding a grudge ever since. But you know, it's things like that where there's so many fractures within the club right now, where it's from the C-suite to the management and even the players itself. Because, like, for example, you know, there's some players that are like, I don't really vibe with Allegri, and then there's other players that do. So it's really a collective mess. So it's Yusuf corrected me. So it's Agnelli took Calvo's wife, not Allegri. So it's I knew it was one of them.
But it's got to be the money, because it's definitely not the eyebrows.
It's got to be, which is interesting how Calvo still works for you. That's just irony. But it's just almost like an alligator cluster of just absolute shithousery in a sense. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of curious looking at it from talking to someone that's outside of Juventus. You know, you cover everything and you hear everything from other folks. Is everybody kind of looking at us and just being like, look at these guys over here? Or is it just kind of like, what's going on?
I would say both can be correct. It's sort of, I think, almost like with every new sort of story that comes out, it's like, oh, Juve's doing something weird again, or Juve's involved in something strange again, you know? And then at the same time, I think on a human level, I can sort of sympathize with the Juve supporters, because, like I said, it's been like a lot of things outside of what's happening on the pitch that have been very annoying to sort of put up with, I'm sure, especially when you start speaking to rival supporters, etc. I know that, like in Portugal, like in any country, the sort of toxicity, for lack of a better term, between the top clubs can be pretty awful to put up with regularly, especially on a great platform like Twitter. Um, and then on top of all of that, like I was saying earlier, which sort of came out cross as a dig, but genuinely, if we want to get into this, I'm not a believer in Allegri. And I've sort of had a long-standing opinion that he's not the guy that's going to elevate Juve. And so to take all of the stuff that's happening off of the pitch and then couple that with what you're watching on the pitch has got to just be, on a human level, very, very, very difficult. And you must be ready for the season to be over. But now all of this is following you into the summer with different sort of court dates and everything.
Yeah, no break for us, really. But the content will continue to come.
You know, the funny thing is, so like, I don't know if it's like coincidental or a curse or something. So every terrible Juventus moment that has happened this season, Dave and I have been on their official Twitch channel live as crap hits the fan.
Oh God.
So the amount of, the amount of times where I think I have honestly learned every single swear word in Italian because that's what we have been getting thrown at us, which I thought was funny. But yeah, like we were there for the 5-1 loss to Napoli. We were there to the losses for Monza, the second loss to Monza. I believe we were there for Empoli when the -10 broke. We're doing our pump up pregame talk on Twitch, and then all of a sudden, hey, FIGC levies a -10, and the entire chat's like -10, -10, -10 the entire time. We were there for the infamous Microsoft Paint Allegri out comments that it's been interesting with a lot of the stuff that we've bearing witness this season. But I guess there's more content for us to dissect the next couple of weeks.
It got to the point when, because we would show the Twitter page a lot just to show what's going on, that I had to have the screen set up and zoomed in just the right way where it would hide the comments, because all that was in the comments was Allegri out in that red. And obviously we can't show that on the official stream. So I had to like preset all my windows in case, one of those popped up.
It was an absolute adventure.
It was whatever. It was fun. We had fun.
That's tough, because then it's almost like you become like, you guys are not to diminish what you're doing, but
no, we're just a couple dudes in the basement.
You're just the Twitch hosts, and yet you sort of become like this representative for the club all of a sudden.
And we are in a sense, yes.
Yeah, you are.
And we keep on telling us, like, what do you want us to do about it? Yeah. Honestly, who do you think we are? We don't even talk to anybody from Juventus. We talk to Beppe, and then Beppe talks to Juventus.
Okay. Yeah, and the funny thing about it was, I think we got one comment on there that was like, "Hey, blink 3 times if you can't talk about coaching changes on Twitch," and then we like did it, and the guy started laughing. There was some laughing emojis, but yeah, it was just one of those things where it's just like, I've seen, we've seen Sarri, we've seen Pirlo, but like this like wave of Allegri out this season was just absolutely enormous. So it's like one of those things where, even on our YouTube, like everyone's like Allegri out or Allegri this, Allegri that.
Not
like,
everyone.
Not everyone. Not on the YouTube, but on the Twitch. But like, we're just like sitting there. It's like, guys, we get you. We understand that you're pissed off, but we cannot do anything about it. And it was just one of those things where it was just unique, because I don't think I've ever really covered anything or really like covered Juventus in a lull. And this is kind of like a lull. I don't want to say it's like worse than 2006, but
it's down there.
I think social media has made it worse than what 2006 actually was.
Absolutely. Especially in the English speaking world, because there's translations and everything too.
Oh my goodness.
But to carry on with the Allegri, we kind of touched on the first part of this, but everyone wants to know, who do you replace Allegri with?
By the way, what is this question?
I'm not sure about the Hall
situation. Sam,
I think the whole situation.
Maybe the whole
situation. Oh, the whole situation.
But you already said we talked a bit about that, but let's talk about his replacement potential.
Yeah, I mean, my sort of long running opinion on Allegri when he first returned back to Juventus was, it's a solid signing. It's someone who can sort of right the ship for like a season maybe or so. But if you want someone who's actually going to elevate Juventus, I don't see how Allegri could be that guy. This is a guy that you already had at the club. And in that final season, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but from my point of view, in that final season, you were already seeing sort of the cracks beginning to show in the performances from Juventus. We're just going downhill and downhill. And you had sort of the benefit of not having a genuine challenger to sort of take it from you. And just Sarri came close a couple of times.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that the performances were just going down and down and down. So to go back to someone who the performances were already going down didn't really make sense to me, and didn't really feel like the way forward in order to make Juve a better side. Now, who do you replace him with? I personally like, and this sort of just came to me about 5 minutes ago when you were speaking, Dash, but I personally like and think that he deserves another chance at a top club. Paulo Fonseca, who was formerly at AS Roma. I know that he gets a bad rap. Maybe this is just because I see all the Portuguese comments surrounding Paulo Fonseca, because a lot of Portuguese people like to hate on him based on what he did at Porto and Braga, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, and you guys can tell me how his time at Roma went, I think that there were moments that were brilliant and then it just broke down. I know that at Shakhtar, he did fantastic. Won many trophies, but Shakhtar always wins, basically. And then now he's at Lille, and he took them from 10th up to 5th. And I just think that when it's going well with him, he can play the kind of football that I think a lot of teams would like to, like a lot of glittering, beautiful attacking football. And I think that he just deserves this chance, because a lot of people are sort of using his time at Porto, especially when it comes to Portugal. And maybe it's the same. Maybe people have a similar opinion of him in Italy because of his time at AS Roma. You guys can tell me what you think of that there. But they sort of use those as a stick to beat him with, even though that was quite a while ago at this point.
I'm surprised they used the Roma, because the thing is like he didn't really have that much of an extended tenure at Roma, and also, and I do feel for him, because he was at the time where Monchi left and went to Sevilla, and then also the Roma sale. Because the thing is like Roma prior to Mourinho and the American ownership, Roma was a selling club. You get a player that's on the fringe. No one really wants this guy. You build him up, and then you flip him for a profit. Like, that was Roma's business model. Roma was playing Moneyball. I mean, they did it with Salah, and they sold Salah for 40 million, and they bought him for pennies. So that was kind of the thing. And Fonseca, what was interesting about him was that he had, like, so for example, Roma won matches they weren't supposed to win under Fonseca, but they lost matches that they were supposed to win. And I think, if anything, I think that's probably the only thing that they hold on them. But to be honest with you, they don't. It's one of those things where I don't see any Serie A folk. I mean, prior to winning the Scudetto, Luciano Spalletti was like more taboo in Serie A than anything. Him and Pioli were both considered like taboo coaches. More than Fonseca, even Di Francesco. But he's a good idea. I totally, to be honest with you, I totally forgot about him, because after he left Roma, he kind of fell off. He fell off. He did.
And then there's also another one that I would point to, and it's funny that I'm actually wearing a River Plate jersey right now, but Marcelo Gallardo is still out there, I think. I don't know if he's been... I'm pretty sure that I saw a post recently of someone saying, like, get this man to Europe, because he's another guy who is sort of like I don't want to call him a Guardiola disciple, but his River Plate side was playing similar sort of football to what Guardiola played. That's why Julian Alvarez was such a perfect fit, going from River Plate to Manchester City and never really skipping a beat, even though of course, Haaland was there, so he didn't get all the opportunities in the world. But when he did, just as he did at the World Cup, he took them and he really fit in that system well. So I think that Gallardo is another guy that is sort of, I don't know why he hasn't signed with anyone just yet. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but I think that he's someone that Juve should look at if they want to have a complete culture change of their style of play, because it would be quite the shakeup, I think, and maybe it wouldn't be a great fit right away. And we saw Sarri come in and sort of fail to change the playing style, but he also had to deal with Ronaldo and all these other things. But I think that Gallardo is another one that people are forgetting about at this point, despite him being such a sought-after manager previously.
Can we have a conversation about De Zerbi, because that's one of the things that's going around J Twitter and all over, to be honest with you, because we filmed episode 218 earlier. Farhad and Adam Digby and the guys did it, and one of the names that a lot of the guys were talking about were De Zerbi. So kind of looking at it, because you cover the Premier League a lot better than we do. We try to kind of keep our eyes in it just to kind of understand certain things about it. So my presumption on De Zerbi was he took over essentially because him and Potter, and then again, call me an idiot if I'm wrong here, but him and Graham Potter kind of had the same kind of scheme running at Brighton prior to De Zerbi running in. So it was essentially the hand was there, De Zerbi was the glove that fit in there. So my thing is looking at it from your perspective and your knowledge, do you think De Zerbi, and guys, like just play ball with me just here for the moment. Do you think a De Zerbi to Juventus would make sense?
I think that it absolutely could. I think that a lot of people like to diminish what he achieved at Brighton because they say, oh, it's, it was all Potter's work, blah, blah, blah. But De Zerbi, in my opinion, went into Brighton and made them even better. Now, I can't say that he changed their style of play drastically because he didn't, but everything sort of improved under him. There's all these sort of, let's call it 10% gains in each position was improved. So I know someone said he doesn't even want Juventus, but I think that it could work, and I was very impressed. And the same sort of thing happened when he was at, again, Shakhtar, and people are going to say, oh, it's Shakhtar in the Ukrainian league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he went into Shakhtar, and the only reason he left was due to the invasion. He was doing very, very well there as far as his ability to identify talent and everything. He was very well loved at Shakhtar. And then when he goes to Brighton to come in and do that well, to get them into a European competition for the first time in their history and make them even better. When everyone thought with Potter leaving, this is the end of them, the system's going to be completely changed and messed up and nobody can make them as good as when Potter was there. For him to elevate them even further, I think is a huge feather in his cap. And I think based off of everything that he achieved, well, I mean, you guys can speak better to this than I can, as far as what he was doing at Sassuolo before he left to go to Shakhtar. He knows Serie A very well. He plays very attractive football. Again, it would be a big shakeup from what Allegri is offering as far as sort of style of play. But I think that that's what Juventus needs right now. Look, if you're going to finish in seventh? Yeah. Granted, there was a deduction there, but if you're going to be playing at that sort of level anyways, what's another year of trying to figure out your playing style under a manager that you can actually back and build a cohesive project that is suitable for football now rather than football 6 years ago?
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's one of the quotes that we heard from Adam Digby, where he asked more so about Juve need to look at a young coach that is on the cutting edge of a tactical prowess, and he's like, I'm not saying like Allegri's a dinosaur tactician or whatnot, but like for example, certain coaches did very, very well or have like this really nice brand name because they brought in something that was essentially, cutting edge, or it wasn't even like, playing beautiful, but it was something that coaches just couldn't counter. So the thing is, and I think one of the biggest asterisks that people have on De Zerbi is two things. One, not really much of a defensive philosophy when it comes to it. Even with Sassuolo, I mean, Sassuolo, really the best he did with Sassuolo was about, I think, a Europa League berth once, but they crashed out. They went to the Europa League, but they crashed out in the group stages. I'm kind of curious to see what he does with Brighton in European competition, because I think that's going to be new for De Zerbi to be scheming and planning. And that's the thing, like, for example, as well as with Tudor, that the Marseille podcast also illustrated with too, as well, is that De Zerbi and Tudor, even though they have totally different styles of football, they both are very reluctant to cycle in and out players within the scheme or the system. So usually the wheels allegedly fall off once they get a certain amount of matches within. So moving on to Tom's question here. So Adrian, where do you see the future of European football? How will it look like in 5 years? Is there something wrong? How would you fix it? Fix everything. No.
Assuming there's a problem, I assume, right?
Well, that's the thing. I think that this is not going to be a very satisfying answer for you, Thomas. I'm sorry, but I honestly like football how it is. I don't want a super league. I don't want, the Champions League to have less importance, as much as I might have gripes with UEFA or what have you. I think that overall, there's no revolutionary changes I'd like to see. There's more little changes that I think that would help benefit the game, such as I would wish that there was a way, and this all comes down to marketing managers and stuff like that, but I wish there was a way for the Premier League to have less of a stranglehold on all of the funds and that the rest of the leagues would be more competitive in that sense. And I would also like to see more clubs go towards sort of the academy model. I'm working on a video on Real Sociedad, and it's so cool to see these stories of teams that, they have a manager and a group of players that went from the youth systems, and now they're going to be playing in the Champions League next season. And I wish that football would sort of go back to their roots a little bit. And we see that at certain clubs, especially in, Spain, the teams outside of the top 5 leagues, especially, but teams in Spain, you see a lot of focus on the academy or cantera model. You see it in Portugal. In Italy, I feel like you guys, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they're behind a little bit with their academies compared to other teams. But maybe they're improving
no,
now.
they definitely they're starting to with the
Yeah.
likes of Atalanta's always been all right with the young guys, but Juve has really had a breakout year. Six under 23s coming up and making a start for the team.
Yeah, over 4,000 minutes of under 23 players starting this season. Even one of our under 23s, Nicola Fagioli, though he did spend one season on loan to Cremonese, but he has officially won the best under 23 player in Serie A. So
yeah, so that's pretty huge for us, at least looking down to the future.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course with Kenan Yildiz and Dean Huijsen as well, they have been promoted to the first team for preseason. So there is, and the thing is the average age of Juventus has plummeted as far as average age of the players. I think really the only old players that we have are Danilo, Bonucci, and Alexandro.
Yeah. I mean, when we get rid of Sandro and Bonucci, our average age is probably
early 20s.
25. Yeah. So a young team, which, I mean, you can go back and talk about the whole coaching thing and coaching with the young guys and who's the most appropriate for a rebuild, because we won't be necessarily competitive. No Di Maria, no Rabiot, all that.
Di Maria might come back to Benfica. We'll see that. But I mean,
You
I
think?
hear that all the time. I hear that all the time. David Luiz was supposed to come back. All these guys are supposed to come back, and none of them do.
What's the probability, do you think?
Give us a Monblano probability.
Oh God, I would say maybe like 30%.
30.15%. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. 30.17% that Angel Di Maria will come back to Benfica.
Boom.
We'll see. It depends. I like what Rui Costa is doing. I like sort of the recruitment strategy that Benfica has at the moment, looking at markets like in Denmark and Scandinavia and stuff like that, and to sort of try and unearth some gems, hopefully. We haven't really said, no signings over 30 or anything like that, because we still do make those signings, but I don't know that Di Maria, I don't know that spending that much on his salary, unless he's willing to take quite the cut, I don't know that it would really happen.
7 mil, I guess, is what he would be looking at.
Probably. So to me, he seems nailed on to join Al Ittihad or something like that.
The same one as Benzema there?
Yeah. I was trying to, or Al Hilal or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I just saw it. I just popped it up today. Twitter just like popped in my face and I saw Benzema there. I'm like, wow, okay. It's just like, yeah. So I didn't even read the article. It just popped in my face before I started the stream here. But yeah, I mean, why not join the rest going to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I know they're going to make a redeem team with the 2013-2014 Real Madrid Champions League squad. They're going to win the Saudi League.
Yeah, there you go. That would be funny.
That would be funny. I'm not going to lie. Could you imagine if you had a team with Ronaldo, Benzema, Di Maria, Modric, Cruz, Ramos, and Varane if he leaves Manchester United? Just have them all go to one team in Saudi and just have them just do a Netflix documentary on it. I would watch it 100%.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
For sure. And a lot of people are pushing for please, Messi and Ronaldo, please, just for one season, play in the same team, please.
What's the latest on Messi? I saw somebody mentioning it.
I think it's still up in the air. I think the only thing that's confirmed is that he's leaving PSG. Other than that, there's so many rumors surrounding, there's one journalist that will tell you it's confirmed with Al Hilal, he's going to join them. And then there's another that's saying he's going to join Inter and then get loaned back to Barcelona for 18 months or something. I don't know. It's all over the place with him. That's one of the ones that you're going to have to just wait and see what Jorge Messi and Laporta come up with. If they don't, then he'll probably, I would assume, given that he's already a Saudi Arabia ambassador as far as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia tourism goes, I would assume that there's a high probability he'll end up playing there as well. And
that's right. They crowned him essentially there at the World Cup.
and so I think that they want him on board for this big 2030 World Cup bid that they're pushing for, to have all these players sort of involved.
Though if they're able to pull off a coup though with Inter Miami and Barcelona like that, I kind of want his dad to be framed as the best accountant in the world, of the greatest accountant of all time, if they're able to make that work. I bet you like part of it is Messi's nickname is going to be Spotify, so Lionel Spotify Messi or something like that, just to make it happen. But
it's true though, because he has to deal with salary cap restraints and then also whatever else restraints Barcelona has financially right now.
I know it's going to be like, hey, well, Messi's technically not a player; he's the stadium. His name is Spotify, so he can play. So speaking of salary, so Jeff is wondering, is a UEFA salary cap or transfer cap even feasible? Like, is that something even possible? I would say no. I don't think
it is, but yeah, what do you
I mean, I wish it was, but I feel like what we were talking about earlier about the Saudi Arabian league again, I feel like if there was a salary cap that a lot of players would be like, okay, well, I'm going off to Saudi Arabia where I can make limitless money, basically,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, which is the problem there. I wish that a salary cap would work in that regard, or a transfer cap, as Jeff said, also maybe limit the amount of foreign players or players from outside of the league you can sign in one window or something like that. I don't know, but I feel like all of this sort of benefits Saudi Arabia.
I was going to say, that would be like a 500 IQ move. All the players go to Saudi Arabia. The AFC becomes bigger than the UEFA Champions League. So the AFC Champions League is where everybody's watching stuff instead of the. That would be like, big brain move times 1,000, where Sheffrin's going to end up homeless on the streets with Gravina.
That's not even that crazy, right? If you look at the political landscape just in general, the power base is moving from the west to the east. So it's very plausible, even in the sporting sense, that will follow suit. And it kind of is. We're seeing it.
I've always had this thought in regards to the MLS. If the MLS commissioner got out of the league's way, I think the MLS would be more successful than it is. Because if you look at the franchise owners of all MLS teams, their parent organizations or their owners, their net worth is worth more than most football clubs. I think maybe Manchester United,
they're up there, yeah.
Real Madrid are probably the only two. But granted, here's the irony of it is Man U's owners essentially own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are actually worth more than Man United, which is like outrageous. But like the weakest NFL franchise is worth more than one of the like more lucrative European football clubs. So the thing is the MLS, their system of getting youth players to draft, I think, is insanely stupid because it's only
too North American.
It's top 60 players and that's it. There's no youth academies or anything like that. And you have to be invited to do a tryout for the combine and all that stupid crap. And then also there's like a legit salary cap for all teams in the MLS. So it's like you're only afforded, I believe, two, I don't know if the rules have changed, but like two luxury players or like players outside of the MLS.
DPs, designated players.
Yeah, so like you can do that where you're able to pay like an Insigne like 16 million a season. But I think the irony of it is like, for example, financial wise, money wise, if you get the United States 100% in football, I think you would make a ridiculous amount of money, and then soon we'll start bowing down to the CONCACAF gods instead of UEFA. But
it is happening because hockey is the fourth most popular sport in North America, and it is being overtaken in multiple markets now in the US. MLS has. So, I mean, it's moving into number 4. Obviously, you have NFL, NBA, MLB. Yeah, those three.
I think, because I think, and it's interesting too, because if you look at like the growth of the MLS, like now almost ESPN, because it used to be like Fox Soccer, and Fox Soccer was like a dying channel in the western part of the world, where now you have MLS games on ESPN. You can get ESPN Plus, and you have the entire MLS portfolio. Or no, Apple TV now. I think it's Apple TV now.
And there's Paramount Plus, who is now the shirt sponsor for Inter.
Yeah, and then that, so like you'll look at it in the United States, and granted, NBC Universal is the one that's essentially bankrolling the Premier League. They're literally the biggest telecommunications company in the United States. So, guys, if you ever see another Fast and Furious movie, blame the Premier League, because NBC Universal is bankrolling those movies. So
there's one out now.
I know.
Fast X.
More like when you see another Fast and Furious movie.
Just every time you watch, it'd be funny as a troll if the Premier League would just play Dominic Toretto before every Premier League match, saying family. But it's crazy because, like, for example, the thing about the Premier League is NBC Universal and Comcast. So Comcast is the biggest internet service provider and cable TV provider in the United States. And then you have NBC, which is the biggest film studio, TV studio in the entire United States. merged together, and then they said, "Hey, we're buying Sky Sports," and they did. And then they're like, "Okay, great. Now we're gonna throw 2.6 billion a season to the Premier League. Have fun with it." Because it's like IFTV actually made a tweet. I think it was an image about it where a team that got promoted into the Premier League received $106 million euros. I don't know why I'm saying dollars. I'm a Yank, sorry. And then a team from Serie B that got promoted for Zone only got like 26 million. So it's like the TV rights are insane.
Well, everyone outside of England really feels it. Like I'm sure the Portuguese league definitely feels that one as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's sort of what I was saying. Like, if there was one thing that I could change is that Premier League stranglehold on all of the TV rights, because it's so difficult. Like, first of all, I think that move to Apple TV for MLS was, I don't know if that was very fruitful for them.
I don't think so.
Anytime you go Apple, you're shooting yourself in the dick.
Well, the thing is like, guys, like I am seeing so many Premier League shirts in the United States now, like at pickup games or even at stores. Like people are wearing Man City shirts, Man United shirts, Tottenham. Oh man, I feel bad for those folks, but like you're seeing it there, and it's just like the Premier League is essentially come in and it's flooding the United States market, and it's, you know, bless Paramount Plus with all they're trying to do with Serie A, but like their marketing needs a lot more work, because if you go up and you say AC Milan or Internet, or what is it, Jimmy Carragher butchering Inter Milan on their broadcast, but like, you know, a Juventus, like, you know, you wear a Juventus and like, what's that? That looks like Newcastle. What's Juventus? And you're like, no, that's not it.
Yeah, and even in Canada, like, let's use La Liga as an example. It's to watch La Liga, a league that has provided, you know, how many European champions in the last 2 decades. I don't think they've even lost a European final in the last 2 decades, or like since 2000 and something 2 or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I think the last team to lose a European final that was from La Liga was Barcelona, but I can't remember. It was 2000 or 2001. I could be wrong. Someone will have to fact check me. Anyway, that's a tangent. What I was trying to say was, to watch La Liga in Canada, you have to sign up for TSN, which is one of the sort of main broadcasters that you can get on cable television.
Say it's one of the worst channels that you can get.
And in that sort of vein, to watch La Liga on it, after you've paid for TSN, you have to watch it through their online only app, which is on like TSN 5 or 6 or something like that.
Their app is so bad.
It's really bad. And
their website doesn't even work.
No, nothing. Like every major tournament that we watch is on TSN in Canada, and it's always crashing. But anyways, you definitely, it's not easy to watch any other league, whereas the Premier League is, you know, the easiest league in the world to be able to watch.
It's Peacock. You can watch, you know, you can watch Roman Reigns on the weekends, and then you can watch Manchester United during the weekdays. It's perfect. You got WWE and you got the Prem.
You got the real sports, the fake sports, the maybe the things you usually play when you're drunk.
Yep.
Darts. Yep. You got everything.
Drunk sports, pool, darts. Yeah.
But yeah, the American sports. Okay. And there's a question here too, just going back a bit. A salary cap rule for the entirety of FIFA. I think just each confederation has so much autonomy that this would cause a war. Yeah, you agree?
I think it would be pretty impossible to have everyone agree on what the salary cap would be, because like we were just talking about, the Premier League, suddenly they're going to have to, you know, potentially lose out on players due to reasons like, you know, someone's not going to go to Nottingham Forest because they could also sign for Juventus or Inter or AC Milan or something like that. Whereas previously they'd only signed for Nottingham Forest because of the money and sort of the global appeal that the Premier League has.
There's such a wage, I guess, what do you call it? A salary gap? Disparity? Yeah. Yes, thank you. Like you look at South America. Like how do you bring the salary cap so low that South America would be able to afford it and not completely piss off UEFA with all their billions of dollars?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an ideal, like in theory, yeah, sure, but I don't think it would ever work.
You know, it makes it interesting because it's like when you're looking at it, you barely, outside of like Tammy Abraham, unfortunately, condolences to him because the Stadio Olimpico claimed his knee. He is the newest victim
The
of the
latest
Olimpico.
victim of Stadio Olimpico.
Yeah, so I kind of wish, you still did your weekend recap, because you can include this new segment of whose soul has been claimed by the Olimpico. Because in Serie A, it's an inside joke. Well, it shouldn't be a joke, but it's an inside thing in Serie A where the Olimpico is hands down the worst professional field you can play in.
Dash, you just got your next video.
That is my next video.
There you go.
I'm gonna get Adrian. We're gonna do a collaboration. The Stadio Olimpico. No, but the Stadio Olimpico is hands down the worst stadium you could play in, because it always, every season, it requires a sacrifice of one ACL. It took Chiesa last season. It took Tammy Abraham this season. It took Manny Demiral the previous season when he was playing with us. So, and then also Nicolo Zaniolo. So unfortunately, of course, it happened the last game of the season, but yeah, Tammy Abraham's foot literally got stuck on the pitch, and I just saw the poor kid's knee just go whoop in the opposite direction. But but going back to the English point tangent there, sorry folks, but their national team's got to struggle from this, because all of their players are being kept within the Premier League, not really experiencing different types of football, different play styles, or different anything per se. And it's almost like there isn't a different variety of football in the Premier League. It's like, for example, you have Pep that does Pep system, and then you have Klopp that does the Gegen press. So is there really a culmination of styles in the Premier League outside of Pep, Klopp, and maybe De Zerbi? Because I think Arteta does a similar thing to Pep. So what would you kind of say the basis of tactics are over there?
I don't know that there's a single baseline that you can point to, because like you said, everyone's sort of playing different kinds of stuff. What is English tactics? You'd have to go to someone like Sam Allardyce or those old heads that.
Cross it to Harry Maguire and let him score.
Yeah, because even
not his team, the other team.
Yeah, exactly. But because even someone like Eddie Howe, you can sort of see the influence. He's doing great things at Newcastle, but you can see sort of the influences of different kinds of or tactics from other nations other than England. But I guess they're sort of a melting pot or whatever in England. And I think as far as the development of their players goes, as you were speaking about hurting their national team, I think that they're actually doing okay when it comes to the young talent. I think that they've moved away from sort of prioritizing, big, strong guys. Let's play 4-4-2, kick it up to the big man. He flicks it onto the little man kind of thing. And they have more technical players like your Phil Fodens, Bellingham, Sancho, those kinds of guys are starting to sort of come through and make a name for themselves in the national team. But as far as the tactical identity of English teams at this point, I don't know what I could point to. I have no idea.
Because you just point to Gary Southgate. But because it's interesting, because it's English, they tout us saying, we have some of the best offensive players, with Kane, Sterling, Foden, Rashford, Sancho, and all those guys. And then it's you see Gary Southgate, he plays the most defensive 3-5-2 I've ever seen in my life. And I thought Allegri plays super defensive, but it's
Southgate. I think the English fans hate Southgate as much as the Juve fans hate Allegri.
So yeah. There's a good question here. So Adrian, what is your opinion on what is it?
Conceição. Yeah. So I think that he is Porto's a rival side. Let me take my Benfica hat off.
Trash him. Roast him, John.
Get his ass. No, I think that if I'm to remove my Benfica hat here, I think that Conceição is a fantastic coach. And I think that he definitely needs to be given a chance outside of Porto. And I think that he will be eventually. I don't know. It seems like he's very comfortable there at the moment, barring anything. He's shown some signs of being frustrated for a lack of investment at Porto, because they haven't been making the big money sales that they used to, which are sort of between 2004 and 2012-ish or whatever it was, when they were selling everyone. So he hasn't really been getting the backing that he probably should in order to maintain success at Porto. But even in saying that, he has maintained some semblance of success, whether it's winning the Portuguese Cup as he just did, or winning the league multiple times. He's not going to be a manager that will blow you away tactically, playing free-flowing, tiki-taka, whatever kind of football you want to see. But his teams, as far as their mentality goes, as far as their grit and toughness goes, they will do anything for that man. And they always, not always, because we did beat them once this season, but in the second match at the Estadio de Luz, Benfica Stadium, they beat us again to sort of make that title race very, very tight. And it came down to sort of the last day, basically. So I think that Conceição is a manager that will leave Porto and will go on to do pretty good things. But then I also wonder, does he succeed at Porto because he has this environment that plays into his hand, and that he's sort of given the charitability, I guess, in Portugal to act as he does and say the things that he does that won't really fly when he's outside of Porto, his home, and outside of Portugal. So I do question that a little bit, but I think that ultimately if he was to go to a team, I always thought that he'd be a good, sort of to follow up Simeone at Atletico. If Simeone ever leaves Atletico or something like that, I think that Conceição would be nailed on to go there. Or, some people wanted him at Inter, but I think Inzaghi has proven a lot of people wrong at this point with how well he's done at Inter. Would he be good for Juventus? I don't know. I think that the team would certainly fight and play with a ton of grit, and that goes a long way when you have a ton of effort out there. And I don't want to down talk him too much, because it's not as if he's playing what I was outlining earlier as far as English tactics, 4-4-2, kick it to the big man, that kind of thing. No, his teams are technically very good, and they do play some beautiful attacking football at times. But he's not sort of in that same mold as a Guardiola or Sarri, or sort of the beautiful flowing attacking football that you would see.
Yeah, I gotcha. So translation, what that means is take the ball, kick it deep in the box to Taremi for Taremi to dive and call a penalty, and then boom. No, I'm just kidding. I was just like, because I saw the comment saying he's a Taremi fan, and I was just waiting for you to like pucker up a little bit, because I know he personally, like, he has done some dives where I just sit there and I'm like, dude, I thought Cuadrado sells, but he sells better than Cuadrado. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he does. It's crazy because he is so good at, like, there's a for the Portuguese coverage in North America, you have to watch through Goal TV. There's a commentator named Nino Torres who's sort of become a legend amongst the Portuguese league supporters, and he calls Taremi a magician because he sells dives better than anyone I've ever seen, which is a skill, I guess, as frustrating as it is. But then on top of that, it's frustrating even further because he is so good. Mehdi Taremi is a fantastic striker. He's technically brilliant. He's a great passer. The way he sort of plays off of his teammates in the attack and has, he can play people in behind, hold up the ball well. He strikes it well. He does all these things so well. And then you see him doing that diving stuff. It's, like people said, it is a skill, but it's a frustrating one. It's definitely a frustrating one. It takes away for sure.
I'm telling you, man, Cuadrado, that's Cuadrado for us, man. Because like there's times where like you'll just see like something barely not Cuadrado, and he's just like, if I wish I had the sound bit, but like the Star Wars stormtrooper getting shot. Like, it's literally like, I remember this one time we were covering, I forgot what game, it was Sampdoria. I lost myself on the stream because I was crying. I was laughing so hard because like it was like literally an extension, like the Sampdoria player extended his foot just coincidentally right by Cuadrado as he was cutting, and I would say it was just like a brush, but like Cuadrado, like somehow his body just flanged in the air and he's just like, and I'm just like sitting here and I'm like, this guy sold this. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, that's not really a pen, but I get it. So I'm like sitting there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how all like the anti-Juve fans feel whenever we get a penalty. But like, oh my goodness, I laughed so hard. And then it's like when I saw Taremi do the same kind of thing, and I'm like sitting there and I'm just like, who sells it better? Because it is a skill. Like, do I condone it? Absolutely not.
No.
Unless it's for my team. I'm just kidding. But like, do I condone it? No, because it's one of those things where it takes away integrity, and then with VAR and how complex things are, and then you're going to start, getting into the point with what is a foul, just like how we got into what is a handball, and we're still dealing with what is a handball as an issue, circa Sevilla Roma. But it's one of those things where it opens up a murky water of like, then hey, you got to do this to evaluate this if this is an actual point of contact or an obstruction or stuff like that. But, the guy plays the system. He knows how to play it well. Am I cool with it? Nah, it's not the best thing. I wish Dusan learned how to do that. He might have scored more goals this season, but
part of being good is knowing the boundaries and testing those boundaries, right? So again, if you want to, here's the curve ball over to the F1 reference now. But like you look at Max Verstappen on the weekend, because I do know, especially Dave.
Dude, I watched that race. That guy was ridiculously good.
Okay, so he was on a caution for track limits. So that's when you go outside the white lines, whatever, for those who don't know. And if he was to do it one more time, he would have gotten a 5-second penalty. Well, he just found out, and you get a point for the fastest lap. He just found out his teammate got the fastest lap. But on the radio, he was told, no, caution, you're on track limits. Just take it easy. You have enough of a lead. He completely ignored it and did a fastest lap.
That's just petty. That's being petty.
But he explored those limits and he knew what they were and he exploited them. And he brought home 26 points, which is the maximum you can do that day. So at the end of the day, he's still the champion, right?
He's all done. He's all done.
Yeah. So you hate it, but you have to sort of respect it at the same time.
So I think one of the topics that, and Pipo brought it up, and I think we want to get your take on it as someone outside of Italy, our good friend Dusan. There's a couple of things, like for example, me and Dave, we're not on the Dusan Express. We kind of gave
not
him
anymore, anyways. We got
not
off
anymore. we gave him the benefit of the doubt, but then as we were watching him, we're always watching him, so it's like we start noticing things, we start seeing things. So I kind of want to and I'm pretty sure the chat wants it too, but to look at someone outside of Juventus to kind of think, okay, what's your thoughts? Because a lot of people in the chat here are kind of like, hey, put him on the first plane tomorrow out of here.
Interesting. Because to me, we're all very guilty of this, but I find that we've become increasingly impatient as time has gone on. I don't know if I kind of have a hypothesis that this is sort of a social media thing, because we all are sort of speaking in the same chat room, if you want to put it that way, with all of our rivals and everyone, and we have to watch them get success. We have to put up with their banter far more than you would have if you were just existing without social media in day-to-day life. So I find that there's always this sort of rush for trophies. Like, we have to win this season. If we don't win this season, my life is over. My striker has to score this many goals this season. If he doesn't, he's got to go right away after like 1 6-month spell where he isn't doing very well. So I think that with Dusan Vlahovic, from what I've seen of him in this sort of latter half of the season, I know he went through a really big dip, and then he came back and he scored a goal, blah, 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 blah. Maybe there was a false sunrise there or something like that. But I think that he's just not a fit with Allegri and the tactics, because you've heard murmurs as well of, potentially Chiesa also sort of questioning what's going on with Allegri at Juventus. Am I wrong there?
No, that is something there. We don't have any concrete.
Yeah.
Everything is locker room speak, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that you need to just be a little bit patient with Vlahovic, because he doesn't resemble the player that was at Fiorentina at all. So to me, that speaks to either low confidence, or he's unhappy with the style of play. He's unhappy with sort of the amount of chances he's been getting because of the style of play. And I think that he just needs to get out of this rut, because he doesn't even resemble the player that first arrived at Juve either. When he came, it was like last January or whatever that he arrived, and he was scoring goals regularly. He looked really good. He looked a semblance of the player that was at Fiorentina. So personally, I think a little bit of patience is needed here, because he can reach those levels. And the fact that he doesn't resemble that player anymore, and other players are sort of speaking about issues that they may have with the playing style and et cetera, and they happen to be another attacking player. I think that some patience is needed here, because I do believe that he can get back to that level. Will it be at Juventus under Allegri that he gets back to that level? That I can't say. It seems like probably not. But I think that player is still in him. I think that he still has all the raw components to be that very dominant, pacey, strong, good finisher of a striker that he once was.
Yeah, and I get you there. I think so. Like, for example, one of the issues that Dave and I have about the Dusan deal was 2 factors. One, he is essentially, outside of Pogba, the highest earner on the squad. 12 million gross. I believe it's like 6.5 to 7 million net. Makes more than Bonucci. as far as finances go. 85 million to Comiso at Fiorentina. And the frustration there, because like the thing is he's 22 years old, 22, 23 years old. He's not a finished product, obviously. I mean, that's a given. I think the issue with it is that we spent a lot of resources on him. And it's one of those things where, for example, when you spend a lot of money on a player and then you have to start catering a lot of other resources to that player so that player can do that job, it causes a lot of people to kind of lose a little bit of confidence or a little bit of faith in them. Because the thing is like Dusan does not have a right foot. His right foot is absolutely atrocious. We've not seen him use it at all. There's plenty of opportunities where he can switch over to his right foot, but goes into his left and squanders an opportunity. His aerial game is not that good. Milik had a better aerial game. Even Bremer and Rabiot had better aerial finishing than he did. For example, his physical stature, his build-up and play, like, for example, behind-the-scenes footage of training, Moise Kean would manhandle him off every single ball. And you could see it if you played a man-marking center back on him, he wouldn't be able to muscle off the center back. And then this was something that all of our strikers were guilty of. We call it the bus touch on this channel, but their first touch, is reminiscence of, Lukaku. So the thing is like a lot of folks are a little bit irritated with that, where yes, the guy has a lot of potential, but the amount of resources that we spent for him, 85 million plus with the high salary, is kind of what is really irking a lot of folks. Because, like, for example, Misak, a friend of ours that hops on the channel, is like, we're paying him the second highest salary, and he doesn't have his entire game mapped out yet. And I think that's why a lot of Juve fans are pissed off about it, is because, again, with 85 million, you could buy serviceable wing backs, because we don't, outside of Kostic, we don't have another left wing back, maybe Illing. But again, Illing was someone that we had to, accelerate his development in the next gen so he can even, fill a hole. On the right, you have Cuadrado, who, in all honesty, he doesn't have it in his legs anymore. I mean, he's at that age where, he's getting towards the end of his career. And then there's no backup for Juan Cuadrado as a right wing back. So to conserve his energy, he has to play more conservative, a lot more back, not being able to attack as much. So that's one of the issues there. And then, like, for example, our biggest hole is our back line. We had to tell Alexandro and Danilo, and credit to Danilo. I think Danilo did a phenomenal job converting from a right back to a right center back and organizing that back line. But, like, for example, again, you're telling Alexandro, hey, I need you to play center back because we don't have, outside of Rugani, Gatti, and Bonucci and Bremer, those are your four center backs, and you're running a back three. So you need more center backs. Yikes. So the thing is like Dusan is, in theory, is a luxury. Like, for example, like Haaland was a luxury player to Manchester City. Like, Manchester City had all the pieces there, and I think Haaland is the guy that's taking them to that next level. That robotic demolition of Real Madrid, where it's like, for example, we bought the engine, so we bought the Ferrari engine, but we don't even have a body around the Ferrari engine.
Right.
And I think that's where, like, for example, me personally, I find it irritating because, like, the thing is like, if you pay that much, at least have the production of like an Icardi, where if I just, cross and pray, your head, your foot, your butt, your chest, anything is on that ball and it's going in the net. Because, that's one of those things where I think Icardi was really undervalued during his time at Inter because those teams are so bad, but Icardi single-handedly pulled those teams into a better position than what they were. Because, again, Icardi was one of those guys, throw it in the box. He had no build-up player contribution to that, but at least if you threw it in the box, he's crossing, he's tapping those in. Where it's like with Dusan, you see that more from Rabiot than you saw that from Dusan. And that was one of the biggest things that Rabiot improved his game this season, was his ability to get into loose balls in the box and hammer them home. And that's, again, why he's probably going to secure a bag now because of that. But yeah, it's just one of those things where a lot of Juve fans are griping, is we spent a lot of money on this guy, but he has the potential, but he doesn't have the production yet.
Do you think that some of the frustration towards him is misguided, in a sense that it should be sort of pointed towards whoever was or is in charge of sort of the squad building?
So I agree with you there. It is a little bit 50-50. Like, for example, I think it was terrible that we made a panic purchase. But the thing is when you look at the situation that we were in that January, We had a terrible offense. Dybala was hurt. Morata, he's a great second striker, but he's not your guy. And then again, to replace Ronaldo, it was Moise Kean. So you had your front line of, because that's when Chiesa tore his ACL. So it was like the first week of January. So Chiesa's out for the season, and we purchased Dusan the last week. So we did 2 panic buys that season. We spent 40 million for Moise Kean right after Ronaldo left, and then we spent 85 million on Dusan Vlahovic because the thing is without him we wouldn't have made top 4. That is a fact. Without bringing in Dusan last January, I think we finished 5th or 6th because offensively we just didn't have it. The problem is, and this is where I think Fiorentina kind of fleeced Arrivabene and Cherubini, who were the transfer gurus for Juventus at the time, because Comiso had this very strong approach where he said, I'm not selling to Juventus. I don't care. They're not getting any more of our players. They took Chiesa, but no more. Where for some reason, which was weird because out of nowhere, Joe Barone, who is their director or their sporting director, said in the second to last week or last week in January, said, we'll sell Dusan to anyone. So I think Fiorentina capitalized on a movement because the thing is like Fiorentina kind of threw that number out there that they're saying, oh yeah, 85 million for Dusan because Dusan's contract was expiring this summer if he still stayed at Fiorentina. So essentially, if the season that we purchased him, if we didn't buy him, people would have gotten him on the cheap because he wasn't renewing his contract. He would have had 1 year left on his deal. Fiorentina would have had to, sell him at a discount or run the risk of losing him out on a free. So Juve, and this is again me trying to think in the shoes of people back then, but this is allegedness. But Juve probably mentioned, hey, we'll meet that $85 million price tag. Let's ask Elkin for a cash injection to do it. And I believe Barone and Comiso were like, wait a minute, these guys will give us 85 because that's more than what they'll get for him. Outside of that, because I believe it was only Arsenal and Juve. So, and then Arsenal and Juve both put their offers in, and then Dusan picks Juve over Arsenal at the time. And, that's how it kind of happened. So I think it was good. It was a good play by what Fiorentina did. I think it was poor money management by Juventus because I think we need a 9. We need something to get Champions League football. So they were kind of like, let's do it. Let's hope it works out. But again, it's normal. Football happens. You have busts in football. And yes, like for example, Dusan does get a little bit of whack for it than he should have because again, he can't dictate his price. There's nothing he can do about that. Mm-hmm. But it's, the Dusan situation is a little bit of both or 3 things. Like for example, again, it's Dusan himself not really evolving his game because the thing is he's still trying to do the same thing that he does at Fiorentina without realizing that when you go from Fiorentina to Juve, everybody's watching you. They're studying your film, they're studying your tape, they're figuring out how to pocket you, how to stop you. Because again, you're that guy. So like, for example, if I'm a defender in Salernitana or Genoa and I'm playing Juventus, to make my stock go higher, I want to learn how to shut down Dusan Vlahovic so that I can get a big fee or get a bigger raise because you want to be that guy. So you have all those eyeballs, all those people watching you. So that plays into a factor of it. And I think Dusan didn't realize that. And he didn't evolve his game because he still tries to do some of similar movements. But again, they're man marking him. They're doing a more tighter coverage than they did at Fiorentina. Because at Fiorentina, they gave him a little bit of space to operate because Dusan is a deadly finisher in space. But if you put someone on him, that's where he struggles. So that was one of the things. And then again, with the price tag, and it just didn't really help that much. And kind of going off of what Thomas is saying here as well.
Yeah, you need time. It's the question always is how much time? How much time do you give? How much time do you give Allegri? How much time do you give Vlahovic? I don't have that answer. If I did, I mean, I would work for Juve, but actually get paid money.
I think that my thinking was sort of along the lines of Sam's statement that he made earlier, Sam Marios, in that I just wonder if you were to sell Vlahovic, and let's say you just stick with Milik and who's been great, and the other one, Keane. you just stick with them and you improve the stuff around them, and then suddenly you have a problem with not having a finisher. And I guess the counter argument to that in this moment would be, well, he's not finishing anyways, Vlahovic. So
that's immediately what I thought.
Because that's the problem. Because like, for example, because looking at his Juve stats, he has a 14% conversion rate from shots to goals. His conversion rate's 14, and that's not good at all. So like, for example, if he's at 30, 35, 40, then like, hey, that bodes the argument of, hey, let's get the pieces around him and he'll get it. Like it'll start rolling. But the issue is he's not even producing on that front, because I believe he took 290 shots and has roughly around 25, 27 goals for Juve. So it's not that good as far as a conversion percentage.
It's screaming Cristiano Ronaldo, all those strikes from distance, at least for the Portuguese national team. I don't know how he was towards the end at Juve, but at least for the Portuguese national team.
All right. We had lots of questions here. We don't want to keep you too long, Adrian. And our outros usually take about 10 minutes anyway, so we might as well start going with them. But if there are any quick last minute questions, let them fly. If you're watching on the replay, just throw them down in the comments. If they're directed specifically to Adrian, we'll make sure he gets them. We'll try to answer them for you as best we can, of course.
I actually have a question for you guys.
Both do it.
Yeah.
You brought up Icardi, and he just came off of an fantastic season with Galatasaray. Is that someone that, one, you guys would be okay with signing at this point? And two, has there ever been any murmurs of it?
There was. So the thing is so people hate me for saying this, but Icardi was 1A, Dusan was 1B during that winter transfer market. Because the thing is what Juve wanted was they wanted Icardi with a dry loan from PSG, because again, he wasn't playing and it wasn't really doing anything per se. But PSG was like, no, it's a loan with an obligation. Juve didn't want to take that risk, so they kind of deferred from Icardi, and then they went on to Dusan Vlahovic. So originally they did want Icardi, and it was very, very likely it was going to happen, but PSG slapped an obligation and Juve wanted an option, and that fell through.
Yeah, I had to pull it up because I remember thinking, didn't he have an insane season with Galatasaray? And then I looked at his numbers, and I think he scored in like 6-7 matches consecutively or something. I don't know. But the latter half of his season, I know that he had injuries again at the beginning of the season, but the latter half was great. He looked a completely different player from the one that was at PSG. But mind you, PSG for me is sort of moving into that territory of, I don't know how much I want to judge players' performances that they go there, similarly to how I don't want to judge managers' performances at Tottenham, basically, because if Conte and Mourinho and all these other guys can go there and not do well, it's like, come on, are we really going to hold it against them? So based on his time at PSG, I saw him in the flesh play for PSG, and he was a passenger. He was just walking around. It looked like he did not look involved at all. And I can't claim that I watched a ton of Galatasaray this season, but strictly looking at the numbers and given his previous links with Italy, it seems like, maybe it's a shot if people can get over his Inter affiliation.
Yeah, just make sure everybody has their wives.
That's right.
Right. Youssef, yeah, I did just check my phone. There is more news on Fratesi. We won't focus too much on like the nitty gritty Juve rumors so much here, because we have Adrian. We were going big picture tonight, but definitely, if not later on in the week, for sure on Saturday on our call-in show, we will 100% tackle all of that nonsense. But yeah, I guess just on Icardi, if the deal was right, I'm not against it. I've never disliked the guy. Wanda is an issue, but we'll see. he's an option. And Jeff,
he's certainly an interesting option in my opinion, because like Dash was saying, just how much more he offers. First of all, his finishing, and then second of all, just how he was playing in those, maybe not his last season obviously with Inter, but the last few seasons with Inter where he was the captain, etc. He was just such a good all-around striker that you look at, I listened to what you guys are saying about Dusan and how he's a little bit limited in that sense. I don't know. Maybe Icardi is the profile you want. If, again, he can get along with everyone's and not get along too much with their wives. And Wanda, doesn't cause too many issues.
Wanda. It's all Wanda.
I think really the only issue, because I think Icardi's always wanted to go to Juve, but I think the Icardi issue is, again, off the field issues and whether or not, because Juve is very corporate. Everything they do is very corporate. So it's like you bring in someone, because like Sarri was not a corporate guy, and Juve did not like that about Sarri, about him not being corporate. So I think that's really going to be the one thing is it really depends on the sporting director, Adrian, to be honest with you. Whoever takes over.
Think about this. We have a bit of a legacy. So we just got rid of the guy beginning of the season, last season, what have you, who used his car salesman cousin as an agent. We're getting rid of the guy, most likely, that has the mother of an agent. Now we could get the guy that has a wife/ex-wife/side piece. I don't even know what the hell she is, as the agent. So I think we go all in. We got to keep this alive.
Yeah, keep the funny agents alive, man.
Confirm Messi to Juventus because his dad's his agent.
That'd be next year after he's tired of dealing with the Saudis. Get a 37-year-old Messi. That'll work. Oh man. And Yusuf's greeting. We need a utility type.
I think Bulleted Dia. I think
Dia.
He'd be worth making a video off of.
Have you been following him?
Sorry,
do you know about this character Dia?
Salernitana.
Yeah, guy's been an absolute beast. 16 goals scored with Salerno, 6 assists, and that's outrageous for a team like Salerno because Salerno rarely attacks, and the guy is strong, fast, and a great finisher. I think he single-handedly kept him. He single-handedly kept him in Serie A this season.
Yeah,
that and Ochoa.
I know that you have to take sort of risks or gambles on players like that. I just worry that he'll be one of those signings where he did so well at this team with limited resources, and then he goes to Juve and just crumbles.
Yeah,
I do worry about that.
So many worries we have. So many worries. Nothing is perfect. All right. Did we have anything else? We will try to cut this off for the 1.5 hour mark so we don't take too much. Adrian, man, I know how busy you are really just in life in general.
He's spending his Tuesday evening with us. I'm so touched.
and now you'll have a girlfriend soon that will tell you what to do. And
exactly.
Well, you still only have a wife. You got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's all going downhill now. But no, I'm sort of relieved that the season is ending just because it gives me more time to sort of tackle things like, I'm redoing my lawn. So
let's go. Adulting and landscaping.
I had to build a shed since last summer, so I think I got to get on that myself.
Look, I'm finally attacking that lawn. I took off that top 2-inch layer, so we have no moss, no weeds, nothing. It's a clean slate. So this
do it now. Well, it hasn't rained in 3 weeks, so it's nice and dead, right?
Weed and feed, my guy. Weed and feed.
Nice.
So it's a clean slate. That's what you can look forward to. I'm getting rid of the weekend recap and starting a landscaping series instead on the channel. So we'll see how
that makes so much sense. And the next thing later, they're gonna say Adrian does his lawn better than the Leicester City FC groundskeeper does. So
hey, there you go.
There you go. There you go. We all have ideas. We're probably gonna flex a little bit into the F1 world this summer as well. See how that goes. So, I mean, you just got to keep it fresh, right? Don't talk about the same old thing over and over. You got to,
I mean,
find new things.
I feel for you guys who cover just like a single team.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer, because it's just rumors. It's just rumors. You're just tackling rumors and the same old rumors over and over again, or you're covering rumors that have zero credibility and that kind of thing. And it's just like,
I mostly just make fun of the horrible rumors. That's how I kind of get through it and deal with it, right? Like, this guy said what? Like Gattuso we heard last week. That
was crazy.
Gattuso, which I need to, now that I think of it, I'm going to upload that soundbite because I do have it.
Gattuso was being linked to Juve as the next head coach, and I was like, really? That was out of nowhere.
Weird. That one I don't really understand. I mean, I do, again, like I was saying about judging managers that go to Tottenham and fail. Managers that recently have gone to Valencia and fail, I don't really hold too much judgment for them. But I mean, I guess he has, Napoli and AC Milan and other sort of opportunities that you can judge him on in the past.
Yeah. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gattuso. Thanks for featuring now.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get that soundbite up for quite a while, so there it is.
Oh my God, David is saying, can't wait for Berardi to Juve episode 37. That's going to be a fun one to cover because every single time I don't want to cover this, and I always get roasted by people saying he had a double-digit assist production season. I'm like, okay, great. The guy will never leave Sassuolo, so stop trying to convince me otherwise.
He's stuck there. All right, guys, let's kill this. The only way to kill this for sure to get Dash to like stop going down the road. Just he's like that old. I had this old station wagon. It was an '86 Parisienne Pontiac. It had a 350 in it. The thing idled at 40 kilometers an hour. That's Dash. You just like let off the gas and it's going down the road. But anyways, here's the music. Adrian, thank you so much. We love doing this for you or with you. You're doing it for us. But we love it. Dash. Actually, screw you for a second. Adrian, any parting words?
No, thank you for having me. It's always a blast speaking with you guys. Thank you for your hospitality, and thank you to the chat for not making me think too hard. I definitely had to think hard when it came to salary caps and economics, and Saudi Arabia taking over the world, blah blah blah. But other than that,
allegedly.
Yeah. Thank you to the chat, and thank you guys.
Thank you once again, Dash. Take it away.
Oh man, so much pressure. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to this special guest featurette with Rabona TV. And obviously, you guys, go look at his fun stuff. Go look at his final weekend recap of all time. It is the last one of the series, so go ahead, check that out. And also, check out his Champions League preview video. It's got some good sauce. It's like barbecue sauce, nice and juicy. But anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. We will see you possibly on Thursday. Maybe not. We don't know yet. But we will see you definitely Saturday on the call-in show. Also, guys, while you're going to sleep, listen to that podcast episode 218 on all your Spotify podcasting networks. All right, guys, we'll see you.
Oh, you almost made it to the end of the music, but not cool.
Damn it.